There's a lesser-known French fairy tale called The Boy Whose Mother Wanted to Throw Him in Boiling Water, and that's how it starts. It's a slightly more brutal, gender-swapped version of Cinderella that includes a princess who knows what she wants and goes for it. The first sentence is, "There was a wretched little lad whose mother could not bear him. One day she said, 'Which would you prefer, to be cooked in boiling water or stabbed to death with a knife?' He says, 'I'm gonna pick the boiling water,' and then as she starts to get it to boil, he runs the hell away. And he thought Cinderella's stepmother was bad. But like Cinderella, a fairy soon comes into the picture. He meets her in this grotto, and she's like, 'What's wrong?' And he's like, 'Well, my mom wants to kill me, I got nothing.' She's like, 'Go to this next kingdom over, ask for a job from the king, I know he needs a swineherd, and if you ever need me, just call for me and I'll be there.' He gets the job as the swineherd, but then he gets really tired from chasing the pigs everywhere, and so he sits down and he's like, 'Fairy, fairy.' She appears, he's like, 'I'm really tired from chasing these pigs,' and she's like, 'It's cool, I'll give you a coach that is drawn by white rats, and all you have to do is sit inside, and it'll just follow the pigs where they go automatically.' Years pass, and the fairy helps him move up to a sheep herd, and then a turkey herd. Now he's a grown man, and he's like, 'You know what, I'd really like some nice clothes.' So she gives him a suit colored like the sun, one like the moon, and one like the stars, which happens lots with females and their dresses in fairy tales, particularly like all kinds of fur, Cinderella-adjacent stories. So he goes out in his coach for a drive over the heathland in his sun-colored suit, and the princess looks out her window and says, 'Oh my god, that is the most gorgeous man I've ever seen.' The next night he goes out in his moon-colored suit, and she's ready and looking for him, and she's just swooning. The third night in his star-colored suit, she leaves the palace, goes to him, and she's like, 'Can I go for a ride with you in your coach?' So they start riding together every night and soon start going on walks together. But then her dad, the king, gets mad. He's like, 'I don't want you getting involved with the turkey boy. You need to marry a nobleman.' She says, 'Father, I love him. I want to marry him.' And he goes, no. Now the girl has two older sisters, so the king doesn't have any sons. So when he realizes he's getting old, he's like, 'I'm going to have a contest and make people fight for the throne.' Her two brother-in-laws obviously are going to contend for it, but she goes to her turkey boy and she's like, 'Hey, if you can win the throne, you can have me. So go for it.' Now the competition is to race on a horse and then sword fight, but he doesn't have a horse or a sword. So the girl's like, 'Well, there's this old mule in the stable and like a rusty sword there. That's better than nothing.' So he goes out, he gets the mule and the sword, but then he's like, 'Oh, hey, fairy.' And she comes in and turns it into a, amazing steed and an amazing sword. For 3 days in a row, he beats the brother-in-laws, first in the race and then in a fight, but no one's there to see the fight. And after he wins the third time and should get the crown, the brothers are like, 'Hey, we're gonna murder you if you don't tell him we won.' Our guy's like, 'Okay, but you have to give me the 2 orange apples that your wives gave you when they agreed to marry you.' And they're like, that sounds like a fair trade. So they give him these orange apples. So they go back in front of the king and everyone, and he's like, 'Yes, these 2 won.' And the king's like, 'Yes, I was hoping Turkey Boy wouldn't win.' But then Turkey Boy pulls out the 2 orange apples and he says, 'Sire, they didn't really win. They asked me to lie for them, and I asked for these 2 orange apples that their wives gave them in exchange.' The brothers can't deny it because they don't have the apples anymore. And of course, this is also symbolic that they are giving up their women and saying they're not valuable to them. And also the women are the only claim they have to the crown, that they married into royalty, and they have relinquished that for cowardice. Then Turkey Boy takes out a 3rd apple. He's like, 'This one was given to me by your youngest daughter because she wants to marry me. So what are you gonna do?' The king is super mad at the sons-in-law, and it even says that they had behaved as if they'd sold their wives. So he has no choice but to choose Turkey Boy to have the crown. He marries the princess, and they have their own castle built and live happily ever after. I love the reverse Cinderella of everything, and the idea that these gender-swapped versions of these stories existed before we started retelling fairy tales in movies and books. And to go from "my mother is giving me options on how she's going to kill me" to "I'm gonna marry the woman I love and assume the crown" is pretty remarkable. And I love that the girl knows what she wants and goes after it and gets it too.